So, hi, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, we've got Ryan Kruger, who's the director, writer of Fried Berry, which is now on Shudder. So, Ryan, thank you so much for making time for me today. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So, how have you been the last year and a half? how's,
Yeah,
how's that been going?
considering all the shit that everybody's going through and everything, I think I've been quite blessed because of Fried Barry and the success of the film. And luckily, I had a film that was ready before lockdown and everything. And I mean, even at we had the world premiere at CineQuest in San Jose, and that was like a few weeks before lockdown. So when that happened, I thought to myself, I make a film, and now this happens, and maybe it's just it's probably gonna like mess up the, my first film. But yeah, it was completely the opposite, because the festivals still went on. A lot of them were still online and everything. So if anything, it actually did it more justice, because more people watched the movie online and stuff like that. So it gained way more attraction. So yeah, so it was good. And I think during this whole time, I've probably traveled more, because we all know, like, everybody's moaning because they're not traveling.
Right.
And I've actually traveled quite a lot during this time. So, going to the States, going to Sitges in Spain, just came back from Ukraine. So yeah, I've been doing quite a bit of traveling, considering what's going on in the world.
Right.
So I've probably traveled more in the last year and a half than I've done in like years. So that's pretty cool.
So yeah, no, that's fantastic, because we hear so many stories about, and especially just the timing, the divine timing of the readiness of the film. We've seen so many people say, we're pre-production, everybody was there, and then the whole set closed down, and now it's not coming out. And especially, just giant budget films and things like that. But I think what's so great about that exposure of your film is that you have a lot of people that maybe not are what you consider horror fans to really enjoy the film. So there's a lot of chatter about how much people really enjoyed the psychosomatic twists of the film, which is great. And bringing more people into the genre is always good for us, right? It's just converting folks into that. So with it not affecting the work of Fried Berry, has it affected how you're looking at other projects coming down the line as to what those sets are going to look like, or what you're going to have access to down the line?
What do you mean, in a way that
Just,
during this time?
I feel like there's so many sets that are, we're slowly opening up, but there's going to be so many barriers to working in close contact with folks. Or
I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of filming going on, and it has been for a while now. So it's like that saying, what people say, it's the new norm, it's the new normal. So, I mean, yeah, when you're on set, they're just very strict with masks and stuff like that. And then just before the take, you can, you take off your mask and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess it's kind of normal apart from that, and everybody that's on set has been tested and everything. So everybody realistically should be safe. So
perfect.
So yeah, so I don't think it's gonna change that much. And then, I mean, I think everything's only probably gonna go back to normal probably in the next 2 years, which is ridiculous, but yeah.
I mean, it works for us, us cinephiles that are just really want to watch movies in the theater again, that really just want to see stuff produced. So
isn't your cinemas open now?
Some of them are. Yeah, some of them are open. Really odd hours of the day, like it's 4 hours between each showing, so they can do like the giant hose down of things.
That's crazy.
It's such a weird time to be alive.
Yeah.
But with your work, and I really, I'm just the catalog that you have is super, super impressive. So what was that point in your life where you looked at film and said, I need to do that? Like, that's what I need to do.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those people that always kind of known what I wanted to do. So I've always, I mean, at a very young age, you know, watching, like, my dad definitely introduced me to like movies, and constantly watching, you know, different genres of movies growing up, and going to that video shop and just getting loads of videos out the whole time. And yeah, it's always just been a love that I've always had, and I've never wasted any time putting energy into something else. And you know, it's like it got to a point where, you know, we all know this industry is a very hard industry to get into, and work is up and down, and most people that want to do it as like a hobby, and they have like 3 other jobs or whatever. And yeah, I mean, it got to a point where, you know, my mom and dad was like, you know, just in case this doesn't work out. And I'm like, yeah, but it is. And they're like, yeah, just in case it doesn't. And I was like, yeah, but it is. If it doesn't work out, maybe, you know, you should study something else. And I'm like, yeah, but it's going to work out. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to work hard at it. And they're like, yeah. But we're just saying, Ryan, just maybe do something else as well, just as a backup. And then I was like, and at this time I was just doing acting. So then I was like, oh, I'll do directing. And they were like we meant like something not in the film industry, and something completely something else. So yeah, and then I decided to concentrate on directing as well. So yeah, so I've always kind of bounced in between the acting and directing, and I love both. And you know, it's one of those things where I think with directing I can create content, and I've kind of got control of my career in a way. And then with acting, you don't have control of your career. You know, you go to an audition, you either get it or you don't. All the cool parts that you would love to play, most actors go, oh, I would love to play this. Chances are you're not going to fucking play those roles. And unless you're creating something, and you know, you can cast yourself or whatever. But yeah, so it's always been a thing where, yeah, I've just loved it, and it's always different. And again, I've always put all my energy and time into something, and never wasted time doing something else. It's always been a thing where I'm like, okay, when am I going to get where I want to be? And even now, you know, it's baby steps. You know, it's busy climbing that ladder. But the big dream has always been to direct a feature film. And now that I've got this feature film, it's still like, to be honest, it still hasn't even hit me. It's still a thing where I'm like, oh yeah, I did that film. Oh, it's crazy. So it's been an amazing, crazy journey, and still it still really hasn't registered for me. And then once you've done the first one, you're more impatient, like the first time, where you wanted to make that first film, and then you've made the first film, and now I'm like, I need to do another one now.
Right.
Like I have to do another one. So yeah, and I guess that's I guess that's part of the trade, and the part of, you know, everything that, you know, it's normal. And that's why I'm saying it's like when, you know, when you're doing your acting or directing, or, you know, where you want to be in your career, and it's like, oh, when will it happen? And it kind of happens like over the years without you even like registering or realizing it. And, you know, you're like, you're on set and you're doing what you're doing, and yeah, it is fun, and it's a great job, but it's still a job. You still got to work hard at it. And I mean, there was many times when I was on set of Fry Barry, and I look around, I'm like, shit, I can't believe I'm making a feature. And yeah, it's just an awesome thing. And like I said, now I just want to move on to the next one and start shooting the next one, and so on, you know.
That's perfect. And it's having that autonomy over your work, having the 100% control over what your content creation is, I think is really hard for us to come by. I don't know, but for where you're at, and especially in the United States, there's IP, all, you know, there's intellectual property taken all the time, and then we lose that autonomy of like, we love the story, but here's what we're going to do with it, and you don't have control of it after that. Has that been an easy conversation with like distributors of your work, or getting like producers on board where you have to have that pushback conversation, or is there a lack of pushback because of the control you have?
Yeah, well, I mean, the great thing about Fry Barry was I just did what I wanted to do. So I didn't have to answer to anybody. I'm like, I'm doing this. This is funny. This is cool. I'm doing it. And I just did what I wanted to do. And to have that full control is, is brilliant. And, the majority, not the majority, like a hell of a lot of the people that like these sort of films, they like all that stuff. But it's also, Fry Barry is one of those films where, it's not made for everybody. Some people will look into it and take a lot from it, and then some people will watch it and will get nothing like those other people that got stuff out of it. And that's the thing, there's a lot of depth within Fry Barry. And I think when it comes to distribution, there is certain countries and certain places where they're like, oh, that's too hectic, you're going to need to chop this shot out, or you're going to need to change that. So that does happen, and it's kind of always been like that. It is frustrating, but at the same time, it's sometimes, if it's like, okay, if it's in England and in America, the proper version, then it's all right. If everywhere else is a little bit different, it's all right. But yeah, it can be, it can be frustrating and stuff like that. But yeah, it's and there's all these different rules. So like, if it's on like online platforms or it's Blu-ray, there might be different cuts, and then we might do like a director's cut of it and stuff like that. So it's funny and frustrating, and sometimes it's like somebody could watch Fry Barry and say, oh, they've tried to put like shock value in the film, and it's not at all. Like it's really not. I mean, when you look at what you've either grown up with within movies and gore or this or that,
sure.
I mean, it's just like it's like when I watch a movie and surprise is not a shock factor. Surprise is like, oh, cool, I can't believe that's in there, and it's not put there for a shock value. So I think it's like with Fry Barry, you've got like the alien abduction scene when the thing goes down the dick, or the anal probing.
Like, oh.
And the thing is, it's yeah. So for me, it's just like every single sci-fi movie, when it comes to an alien or somebody being abducted, they always hint on that, but they never show it. And I'm like, oh, let's fucking show it. And at the end of the day, it's just a dick. So what? Or it's just somebody getting probed. I'm like, so what? Is it really that? Like shocking,
you knew it was,
it's more of a surprise that you see it than not see it. But I wouldn't say it's like shock value,
No, I mean, it's so funny, because that's one of the questions that I had in a bit, was especially with something like that scene. It was, to me, it was just like, oh, see, that's what I figured would happen. An alien abduction, it's like, that's coming for you. And
well, that's what I'm saying. Like every time we see an alien abduction movie, or they're talking about it after the aftermath, they always say those things, but they never show it. And I'm just like, let's show it. And it's just like, is it really that, graphic? Some people might look at it and go, oh, that's graphic. But I mean, for a horror lover or people that's into, these type of genres, that it's not really that shocking. It's more, I'd say it's more impressive. Like for me as a fan of horror films, watching something, if it wasn't my film and I've seen other stuff in other movies, I'll be like, oh, cool. I'm so happy they put that in.
Right.
And it's like, why don't they normally put that in? And I mean, it's like when you look at like over the years in film, like in the 70s, there was just like tits flying everywhere in like movies.
Russ Meyer movies.
yeah. And then in the 80s, early 80s, there was a lot of naked women and stuff like that, and then and then in the 90s they calmed it down completely, and we just didn't see it. And then there was the odd like little cameo, little dick here and there, but just in random scenes of guys, but very done in a very like subtle way, like whether somebody's getting out the shower or something like that, and you're like, oh, okay, I can't believe they did that. And but at the end of the day, it's just like whatever. It's just the fucking human body. So it's just like, you know.
Yeah, correct. And we talk about, I mean, you know what alien probing is. So, I mean, it's not news to any of us.
No, exactly. No, exactly.
It's a beautiful way to put it. It's a very, very eloquent way to think about it. I loved that scene, and that's something that I do want to discuss in a bit. But one of the things that really impressed me is the whole catalog you have of doing music videos.
Yeah.
Throughout your career, and with taking music video direction and even short and now feature film direction, like what do you love about those in those buckets? Like what really gets you about doing music videos versus doing feature film?
Well, I think, you know, music videos for me was always a stepping stone to go into features. And the reason why I got into music videos was, you know, you can be way more creative visually, you know, do music videos than like short films. Because at the same time, you know, with short films years ago, it was, you can make a short film and yeah, you can put it on YouTube. You can maybe play it at some festivals, and then it's like it's never on TV. And if it is on TV, it's on at 4 a.m. when nobody's actually fucking watching your film. So it was just like the cool thing about shooting music videos that I understood straight away was that you can shoot a music video for an artist and they've already got a following. So you've already got an audience. So straight away, you've got an audience instead of making a short film and somebody might come across it. So with the music videos, it was instant fan base from the artist and people, you know, people watching your work. So I thought that was a very clever way of, you know, getting stuff out there. And plus it'll go onto like music video channels and stuff like that. So you're actually getting more out of it than a short film. So I thought that was a really interesting way to go. But at the same time, as a music video director, I was very much a narrative storyteller within music videos. So I try to keep away a lot of the time for like a musical performance. And if I did have musical performance, it would either be very, very visual or narrative short story cut into some performance, you know. So I try to stay away from the performance because it just bored the shit out of me, just shooting people like singing and stuff, unless I really, really, really like the artist. But apart from that, like when it comes to directing, an artist has their own way they move and sing and everything. So it's just like, okay, I'm going to get you from this angle or this angle and we're going to film you. And it was just like boring. So it was cool to do like short films within music videos and, you know, to get that story across within 2 to 3 minutes. So, you know, it wasn't too much different going into feature films, apart from obviously with the feature film, it's the longest I've ever done a project on one story or what spent time with one character. So it was fun. And it, as I said, it's always been like a stepping stone to, you know, to do features. And you know, I've enjoyed doing music videos, and I kind of don't really pursue the music videos anymore unless it's something I really like want to shoot and stuff. But yeah, I still get people like emailing me all the time to do videos, but it all depends on the track and stuff. And even when I started doing music videos, I was kind of still in a box as well, in a sense of I was lucky that all these artists were like, oh, you can do what you want, you can whatever, you will get the idea, and you know, you do your thing. But at the same time, I was still in a box because of the style of their music, because of the tone of their music, because it needs to go on TV. So I couldn't be too risky, too crazy. Yeah. I was still in a box where I still had like rules, and that's why a few years ago I started shooting experimental films. And you know, I decided, right, I want to shoot 8 experimental films, and I can do whatever the hell I want. I don't have to listen to any record label or band manager or anything, and just do what I wanted to do. And funny enough, the first experimental short was Fry Barry, the 3-minute experimental short first. So that was, you know, Fry Barry was kind of born out of that, not knowing that I was going to do a feature from that experimental, but you know, I think with the experimentals, it was just great to go, I can do what I want. I don't have to listen to everybody. It doesn't have to make sense. It can be a piece of art. It can, you know, it can still have a beginning, middle, and end, but it's, you know, you can do whatever you want to do. There's no rules. And that's what I loved about it. And yeah, and I think with doing stuff like that, you can just get super creative and come up with crazy ideas that I couldn't have done, you know, with a music video and stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, and even like watching Friedberry, and when you said that, you know, it's to do a full narrative story through your music videos, in certain scenes you definitely give those scenes, they're all fully formed when they're walked through. You can see that from beginning to end, this scene has to do this, and then we're going here. Sometimes, especially I would definitely call Friedberry like experimental, because there's so much visually going on, and there's that there really is a beautiful story all the way through. I mean, I don't know how many people would get that right off the bat, but there really is a beautiful story all the way through. And I think that's what really kept me interested in the film, not just visually in the story going on, but just how everything
but that's why I say it, like it really depends how you go into Friedberry, whether how open-minded you are and also the type of mood that you're in at the time. It can easily be a hit or miss. And that's why I'm saying the difference between, you know, we've got a lot of people that love this movie. We've definitely got more lovers than haters. But even the people that don't like it, you know, they won't see everything that you see in it. You know what I mean? So they'll go, oh, you know, it's just from one thing to the next, and this happened, and there's no fucking story or this or that. And it's funny because, you know, Friedberry's created to make conversation, whether you like it or not, that you will remember it. And it's completely worked. And it's completely worked how, you know, how I wanted the movie to be looked at. And that's why, like, the lovers are like, oh, you know, there's a lot of depth. You know, we see the dark side of humanity. You know, we see how crazy society is, and the drug addiction, and the family, and there's a lot of heart in the movie. You know, the heart of the movie is his wife, and there's a lot of depth. You know, there's a lot of depth in there. And then the other people are like, fucking don't like it, don't get it, and it's really interesting, and I love it. And when people don't, you know, when I hear or see that, you know, the people that don't get into like I'm not offended in any way. Like it's funny and it's cool. It's to like, I know this film is not for anybody, and that's why I laugh, because like my uncle in South Africa, he went to the one screening in Johannesburg, but I was in America, and he said he was going to go watch it, and I'm like, okay, but you're not going to like it. Like, you're not my target market. You're not going to like it. So he's like very conservative. So he watched it, and he told my dad, he was on the speakerphone, and he said to my dad, my dad's like, oh, so what did you think of Ryan's film? Oh, it was shit. It wasn't good. And then I heard him say that, and I couldn't stop laughing. And I was like, why are you saying my film's shit? And he's like, no. He's like backpedaling. And I'm like, it's okay. It's like, it's fine. Like, you are the furthest target market away from this film. Like, this film is 100% not for you. And that's it. And that's why I always say, you either get it or you don't. But the movie is designed to, you know, for you to talk about it. And that's why I say, whether you love it or not, you know, people will speak about it. And that's great. That alone is great, because there's many movies that we watch that we don't speak about, that we don't talk about, that you've either watched 10 minutes and switched it off, you watch the whole film and you go, that's fucking shit, I'm never going to watch that again. And you don't tell anybody about it. So it's awesome that people watch this film and will never forget the film. And that's success to me, that I've done my job right and the design of the movie that I wanted to make. So that's awesome.
No, it's perfect. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's such a funny, you have a movie that's really a study in humanity, or, you know, a character study, and then the outcome of the movie is a character study with two swings of the pendulum on either side. So tell me about the kernel that started Friedberry. Like, what was the idea where you're just like, well, this is kind of what it is now. This is the concept.
What do you mean? How it came out with it?
Yeah.
Came up with the
How
idea?
did it come about?
Well, I mean, when I shot that 3-minute experimental Fried Barry, the short, it was never a plan to turn into a feature or anything like that. It was a standalone, it was a standalone 3-minute experimental that did really well. That randomly people did fan art for it, and I think obviously that like maybe put the seed in my head later on. But it, where I was in my career and my personal life at the time, I was just like, right, I need to make a film, and I had all these other scripts that I could have chose, and then the idea just came to me, how I was gonna, do the film and the story, and the difference between this idea and what I had on the table with other scripts. I just thought, this is way more original. This is way more exciting. This is way more experimental. I haven't seen this film before, and that's really what excited me to, to push it to the next step and to make it. And and it's almost like the 10-year-old in me. Like if I watched this film when I was a kid, I would have fucking loved it. So I really wanted that 80s sort of cult style film, and it was important thinking of all these characters and all these, the right tone all the way through the movie to make it that like cult style film. And I think that was it. It was just like, I wanted to make, I wanted to make like a cult film. And I know you make a film and it becomes like it becomes a cult film, but at the same time, with anything that you make, whether it's a comedy or whatever that you make, you can replicate a feel and a tone, and that was very important for me. Of all the films and all the 80s films and stuff that I love, I've grown up to, it had to be on that certain line where it didn't go too much this way, it didn't go too much that way. And there was some scenes I had to re-edit, even though they were really funny. I'm like, it's not the right tone, and I have to be back on this right tone and feel of this certain type of movie. So and I really wanted to make this iconic character. And I think over the years, people have, always trying to create like another like horror icon, whether it's like, like another thing, a person with a mask or another monster on all this. And I think there's a lot of people that try too hard and try and create these other iconic, characters. And for me, it was just like, it's about his face, it's Barry's face that's the image. I don't need a mask. I don't need, this crazy outfit. And that's why like his main costume was like the denim jacket and jeans. And I was like, that's his Superman uniform. That's his thing. And that's the other reason why I work with Gary Green, and especially for Fried Barry, because he's got that look that nobody looks like. Nobody looks like Gary, and so that's the thing. Like nobody's ever going to come up to him and go, "Are you John?" They're like, no. Like everybody's going to be like, "He's definitely fucking Fried Barry. That guy, like that guy's like nobody. He doesn't look like anybody, So he's just got this presence and look."
Yeah, amazing look, and it's just that's what you follow too. And you notice in some parts where he has a very wide gaze, and then some, his gaze softens, and so trying to be more human parts of it. It's really cool to witness. And what the alien sequence is what I wanted to talk about, because number one, I absolutely loved it, because especially with, that's what I would expect to happen during a fully focused alien abduction sequence. But the sound design throughout the entire movie, especially that very metallic scream follows him through that movie, and I absolutely love that. I love that piece. What did you have a hard time finding someone that was understanding what you needed in sound design, or how did that come about?
Yeah, it's funny. It was very easy in a way, because when I started, so over the years, there was a big DJ musician here called Hazer. And I always followed his work, and I always thought like, oh, it would be amazing to do like sound design on a film. And then when I started doing those experimentals, he did all the sound design for me. So because I've heard his work, I always knew his work and my work would go hand in hand. And I could get to do, like what I said, and when I wanted to start these experimentals, I can do what I've always wanted to do, you know, style of work. And I knew with somebody as talented as Hazer, it could do exactly what I wanted, and our work would just like mold together really beautifully and in the creative process. And that's why when it came to shooting Fry Barry, there was no doubt nobody else, there was nobody else I wanted to do it more than Hazer. And yeah, we just worked so well together. So when it came to, you know, working with him, you know, I'd send him references, and he knows what I like, he knows what I don't like, and we just gel and we just work together brilliantly. And he's awesome. He's so good at what he does, and so easy to work with. I mean, you know, I think in the past, you know, working with some people, you know, you're trying, it's hard sometimes to describe what you want if you haven't got a reference, or if you haven't heard the sound that you want, but you're trying to explain it to them. So I'll be like, you know, I want this sound, and he'd be like, looks at me, but he knows exactly what I'm talking about, and not like looks at me and go, what the fuck did you just say? You know, so yeah. So I mean, Hayes is awesome, and he really brings the movie definitely to the next level. And I knew that from the beginning, that this movie needs you know, not only great sound design, but an amazing score for the movie. And it's so important. And I think a lot of filmmakers forget how powerful it is to get somebody to score your movie, instead of just, you know, dumping on random songs here and there, or getting rights-free music and putting stuff on. And for somebody to uniform your film, it's a major thing, and it's definitely a major difference, and it just gives that so much more value to the movie. And I think that's like when you were young and you watch all these films that you love. The other thing what a lot of people forget is a part of that feeling was the music. Yeah. You know, whether it's Empire of the Sun, or Back to the Future, or Labyrinth, or Poltergeist, or all these films that you remember the music, you remember that feel. And a lot of people forget. It's not like they forget the music, but they forget it's a part of the thing. Right. It's a part of the subject, and without it, it's not the same. It's not the same at all. And that's why I always mention, like, if Vangelis didn't do Blade Runner soundtrack, the movie, it wouldn't be the same film. No, not at all. So that's, you know, I knew how important it was to get Hazer to score this movie and be the right tone all the way through the movie, you know. And it's, like I said, it's a big element to the film. And it's beautiful, and it really matches Gary Green's facial dialogue. Like, it's that you expect to see that when he evokes some kind of emotion or whatever is going through in the scene. It just fits so well. So it was just, that was something that I absolutely love in movies, especially horror scores. That's my kind of bag. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. So I was like, yes, as soon as that sequence hit, I was like, yes, this is what I like the most out of stuff. Cool. So I really enjoyed that piece. With his journey, especially because once, you know, that things take a turn at the rave, and we see him going really on this journey. And like I said, to me, it's a really beautiful story throughout. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on, but his journey is really a journey, all the depravity and all the debauchery that he goes through and the encounters. It's really, you can see him trying to emulate the most positive attributes of humans that he sees. Yeah, he's like a kid. He's like a sponge, you know, he's busy sponging it up. And he takes it on. And I'm wondering, for me, are we just an amalgamation of the things that we encounter? Is that what makes us human? It's just like all these. Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing, you know, when you look at stuff like that, it's just like, you are the person that you are today
Mhm.
is from all the life experiences that you've ever had, and whether you've met somebody or somebody passed away or you've had a best friend or whatever, it's just like the whole experience of the way you've grown up, whether your mom and dad's been strict, whether your mom and dad hasn't been strict, the way it's just like the way we bring up. It's like when you're in school and you're around all these other kids, and it depends how open-minded you were, but I think I was quite bit of a dreamer in school, but it was just like it was just like I knew who was going to do well after school, who wasn't going to do well, who's going to go to prison, who's not going to go to prison.
Most likely to.
and that was the thing, because like when you're hanging out with certain friends when you're a kid, like how they act in a sense of like how they've been brought up, and in a sense of if your parents go and if your parents are like super strict and you can't do this or you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also how you find your friends who you fit in with. So I think life experiences makes you the person that you are. And when it comes to Barry, he's just like that kid. He's a kid. He's basically a kid. He's just like sponging up all this information and he mimics people. And it's like, it's like what we do. We see something maybe on a film or we see somebody else do something. We're like, okay, well, we'll try that, or I can do that and I'll do that. And I think movies gives us confidence and education in many different ways, growing up and watching certain films.
And the media that he soaks up is so interesting, especially in the nod to Meow Now. This was good. But it's for me just watching it, it seems like he really finally started to give a shit about stuff once he was adopted. And that's for me was a little bit, and I may be way off, but really a metaphor is to, until something really knocks you up upside the head, you really don't focus on the shit that means anything to you.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing. He was a better person as an alien than he was as a human. And that's why his wife's like, oh, he's really trying, and meanwhile, it's not a husband, it's this alien. So, you would think I would like to think at the end of it, that human Barry would have learned a good lesson out of all this shit going, like, I've got to sort out my life. I'm not a nice person.
I'm gonna focus
sort myself out,
Yeah, I'm gonna work myself out. And I just loved it. And just the whole thing all the way through, and the warm moments between her his wife and him in the hospital and all of that. And you forget in that moment that it's like been this weird trippy journey, and then it's just those two and how emotional she is. And it's like there's somebody that actually cares about this individual that like literally couldn't give a shit in the beginning. And it starts to,
and that's why she's the heart of the movie.
Yeah,
she's definitely the heart of the movie, and that's why I say there's a lot in there. There's a lot going on in Friar Barry, and you can look at it so many ways, and that's why it's also interesting when people also read other stuff that's in Friar Barry that I didn't even fucking think of or anything like that, and they take something else out of it. I'm like, oh, okay, that's really interesting,
Yeah, that's meant it. Totally meant that.
Well, it's like when an artist writes there's a famous song, and then people go, I think it means this, or I think it means that, and then they ask the artist like, no, it doesn't mean that at all. Like, I was just drunk on Saturday night and I fucking wrote it, and that was it. And I'm like, huh. So that didn't happen in your life? And they're like, no, I just fucking wrote it in like 10 minutes. Yeah. So
it's like, it means something to you now, I guess. It's great.
Yeah.
No, I really, really enjoyed it. And I loved kind of the whole 80s feel to me. Like, to me in the hospital, the mental hospital scene gives me like the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest revolt vibes. And I love that. And I loved just even the lighting is, very candy colored 80s lighting, which I loved. And some of the city scenes are like Big Trouble in Little China city scenes. And I just, all of those pieces that it's such an 80s piece for me too, in a modern era, which I also loved. So it kind of swung me into that. But there's one line in the movie that And it's really early on, and it really made me think about it, where his buddy that's talking about Mickey Mouse at the beginning, where he says there, oh, you know, when they go back and they're having a time, there's just some things you can't run away from. And what part of that do you feel in your life is true?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Have a think on it and get back to me. It's
I don't know. I think it's I mean, you know, within the movie, you know, you've got, you know, you've got you know, he's like, oh, you used to be a runner, didn't you, Barry? And that, you know, and that's why he's talking about that. But obviously his life went down the toilet and he's become this drug addict. And, you know, once you're in, you're stuck. And, you know, there's some things you just can't run away from. And, you know, I think no matter where we are in life, I think it's hard to do, you know, you know, the world doesn't owe you anything. It's up to you to make it. You know, it's up to you to have the passion and creativity and you know, take the steps. It's like, I was just actually saying this to a friend yesterday. It's like there's a lot of people out there that make out that they've got their life in order, like on social media.
Oh yes.
And they're constantly putting these motivational quotes and this, saying, oh, you know,
I hate those so much.
You know, do this and do that, and it's up to you. And a lot of those people, they're probably the most like fucking lost people that are saying all that shit a lot of the time. And it's funny because it's like there's a lot of people that I know. It's like how cults start, you know, where there's people going, I don't know what to do in life. I don't know what, I just need something to believe and to hold on to. That sounds all right. I'll fucking do that. And then they go do that. And that's the thing. And it's like, I've got this one friend, really nice guy, and he reads all these books about motivational, like either how to start a business or motivational about life and stuff. And a while ago I said to him, dude, it doesn't fucking work. And he's like, yeah, it fucking does. He's Tony Robbins, he's helped all these people and all this. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't work for you.
You personally.
And because the thing is, those people, they concentrate so much on just reading all that information and don't actually act on what they're actually supposed to be doing.
No implementation.
And that's why I always say, like, Nike got it right. It's like, just do it. Because if you don't take that step, it ain't never going to happen. And that's why, for me, I probably would have thought I would have made my first feature like 7 years ago, but I didn't. But I also believe everything happens for a reason, and it's timing and it's this and that. But to take that step to do what you want to be doing, like you got to walk that ladder. You got to climb those steps. Mm-hmm. And for me, it took something, even though I'm very driven and very passionate, and I've always been a doer, you know, to do stuff. But it's funny how I really thought I would have probably made a film about 7 years ago, but then it took me to get depressed. Well, actually, before the depression, it took me, I had something wrong with my kidney. I had an operation.
Oh, no.
I got sepsis, nearly died. I lost a girlfriend at the time. My cat got cancer, went into depression, went down this dark fucking tunnel. And at the bottom of this hole, I was just like, I'm done. And I was like, what is the number one thing that I've always wanted to do? And it was to make a movie. So I was just like, cool, I'm going to fucking make a movie. I came up with the idea for Fry Barry in like 3 days. And then I spoke to my producer and I said, I want to make a movie and I want to make it next month. So he didn't know how fucking depressed I was and where I was at that time in my life. But he was like, well, why do you want to shoot it next month? And I was like, because if we don't shoot it next month, it's never going to happen. It's just going to get pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and talked about it. And then the next thing you know, a year's gone by and you're still sitting there going, yeah, I definitely want to make that movie. And it'll never fucking happen. So it took me to go through all that shit, which was the worst time in my life. Mm-hmm. But it took me to go through all that to be able to sit here and talk about talk to you today about the movie, because I wouldn't have, you know, if I didn't go through that stuff, I tell you now, I wouldn't have made the movie. I wouldn't have made it. So I'm very grateful for that dark time in my life in a weird way, even though it was the worst time, but I'm grateful for it because I got Fried Barry out of it. So in that sense, it's great, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And that sucks that it takes us that depth to kind of,
well, it's like you said before, it's like, it's only when something bad happens or something happens where you're like, oh shit, okay, I've got to do this. And it's like you really focus on things then, and you really like, oh shit. And it's not that I wasn't focusing before, but it does take something bad to happen or something to shake you up to realize, like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this and that? And obviously there's a lot more to that, you know, to making a film of, you know, budget and this and that and all those, you know, there's all those extra layers on top of it. But it's also one of those things where if you don't do it or don't go for it, or because I knew from day one, when I did day one of Fried Barry, I knew, like, it's in the bag. It's not finished yet, but I've started it, so I've got to finish it. So it wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, you know, pre-prod's one thing, but once I got that first day in, I knew, like, I'm doing it, and that's it. And I knew it was great because I knew I was going to finish it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I feel like, I mean, I've gone through that too, where it's just like, Mama, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? What are we going to do now? And I think that's for me is that story for me. Like that's what I saw throughout the whole journey, is like, this is now. And then the drop at the end, and they're like, wait, what? I was like, here's your chance to do it again. And I was like really excited about it. So it's just, for me, was a nice metaphor for that. But I'm excited though. I'm really excited for all the success you're having with it. And I'm happy to talk to you today about it. And I loved it. And I'm so happy that there is two camps that are just like, I don't understand it, I don't know, blah, blah. And there's people like, oh God, you gotta watch it like 3 times. And you know, it was just, that's amazing to have.
I mean, the structure is different in Fried Barry than the normal structure in movies. So when you do something different, not everybody's gonna like it. And then people will look at it as a more of an original, fresher piece of art or film. But that's what I'm saying. If I made this a normal structured movie, it wouldn't be the same, and it wouldn't be as special. And that's why Fried Barry is designed in every way, in every aspect, in editing, cinematography, literally everything, music, everything is designed to take you on a trip. It's whether you want to go on the trip or not. And this is why I always say to people, it's Fried Barry is like a road movie without the car, but Barry's the car.
Oh, for sure.
You're going on this, you know, this trip, and, you know, it's designed, you know, to feel disjointed, you know, and that's the whole thing. It's the, you know, just don't overthink it. Fried Barry is like a crazy movie. It's like, also don't overthink it. Don't take it too seriously. It's a fucking crazy movie. So it's like, you know, you'll always get those people that will look into it far too much, or they go, you know, when you did this, were you doing this? I'm like, no, just enjoy the movie. Just like, don't think about it. Like I said, there's a lot of depth, and that's all meant to be in there. But at the same time, it's a crazy movie. And like when Baby Barry comes into it and stuff like that,
I was like,
you know what I mean? It's you know? So I think, you know, it's designed for you to love it or hate it, and especially to talk about it. And that was the whole design of the movie. And like you said, it's you know, it's awesome that you get the people that get it and you get the people that don't get it. And I think it's also like, you know, there's a lot of people that have watched Fried Barry and have watched it many, many times again, and they've picked up on more things. And we've had people that didn't like it and then watched it, and then, you know, watched it a second time. And they actually, you know what, I actually enjoyed it so much more on the second watch than the first watch. And that was from like the first haters turning into, people that, that didn't like it then liked it. But yeah, it's interesting.
No, I'm so very, very happy for your success on that. And I can't wait to see what else that you do. I always ask, just because as a horror screenwriter myself, and we have a small women's collective that we write together, but I always ask this of any horror writer: what is the most mundane thing that scares you?
What, in life or in films?
In life.
I think no. Well, it has to be just losing your people, your closest people. Your mom, my mom or my dad or my brother.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the biggest thing, because I've had quite a few years ago, I had a cousin that passed away, and he was like super young, and he was like a brother to me. So I think and you never know when it's your time,
No.
and, you never know when it's your time, and just fucking be nice to everybody, be nice to everybody, give people your time, and people give you their time, and and just fucking be nice to people. And you only get one mom, you only get one dad, you only get one brother. So,
Love, love, love.
Yeah.
You have to. Speaking of 80s, and we've seen a lot of reboots of old 80s movies, even like reboots of Universal monster movies. If there was one that you could reboot from your childhood, what would you want to do? Just one. Take three if you need to.
I don't know. For me, that it's one of those. I mean, there's so many good films that, like, for me, 80s is like the best. Like,
right.
Cannot beat the 80s, and I think you can see that with like Friar Barry. But there's just so many, like, it's very rare that when they reboot a film that it's good. It's either different than the original but still good, and the majority of the rest of them are just like, it's like Poltergeist. When they rebooted Poltergeist, it was like shockingly bad, so I think I truly believe that there's some films just leave it
alone.
Nothing wrong with it. So I mean, like, I just can't. I can't look at films that I love and think, oh, I would love to redo that. I think it would have to be a film that I discover that I like the idea, but I don't like the film. It would have to be that would make me think, oh, cool, maybe this is such a good idea, but it's done so badly.
Yes.
I think it would be that. But at the top of my head, there is literally nothing that I could think of. I mean, when you look
5
at
out
all,
of 10 people are stumped.
it's hard to it's like if somebody tried to remake like Christine or The Fly or all these films. There's nothing wrong with them. They're amazing. Right. Like just leave them alone. Christine
is getting remade.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? Who's doing it?
I don't know. I just saw it on Deadline that Christine is being remade. Mine would be Creature of the Black Lagoon, which that was something that I fell in love with as a kid.
Yeah.
But Nicotero is doing it, so clearly it's out for me. I'm not gonna be able to do it. But yeah, like I said, 5 out of 10 people are stumped. They're just like, leave it alone. And then so many people are just like, oh, I want to get in on this. It's so hard.
It's when they do a remake now of like a film, I like it sometimes that they still keep it in the 80s. I'm like, cool, that's cool. Like, because if you make it more modern, it's like even worse. So it's, I think, so I mean, if they remake Christine, I'd say like, keep it 80s, do it again, change it up, but keep it like 80s. But again, I'm pretty sure a lot of studios will go, oh yeah, but the reason why we're remaking it because we've got to modernize it and all that, and that's when it like becomes
not true. Not true. Also being remade. Labyrinth. So what is next for you on your agenda? What are you hoping to achieve next?
So yeah, so in August, I'm going to be shooting my next film, which I can't say too much about. But yeah, I'm waiting for the go ahead for that. But it looks like everything's going ahead. So it is a horror slash comedy, not as crazy as Fry Barry. It's different. But yeah, I'm looking forward to shooting that.
That's amazing. Thank you. No, I'm excited for that. And we need more horror comedy, horror camp. I love that. Love that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
I think there's not enough movies now. It. You see, with Fry Barry, it was very that underground '80s style movie, and this film now that I want to make, it's that like lost generation of movies that we just don't make anymore. In a sense of, you know, when you look at the movies like Ghostbusters or The Burbs, or where it's like there's that horror element and it's serious, but then there's the comedy element. And we don't there's that fine line of doing it right and doing it wrong. And a majority of the time now, a lot of those films, they just don't exist anymore. It's not the same. You know, there's a big difference when you look at you know, like a horror comedy, like what was the zombie English thing called?
oh, Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead. So that's like completely different. You know, it's that modern day comedy what we have now, and you know the horror element, and that's not the same as like The Burbs or Ghostbusters, where there's the serious elements and it's about the characters. You know, so that's what I want to kind of do with the next film, is to have that like 80s horror comedy, more commercial than Fry Barry, but still dark and have those moments, you know?
Yeah, I love that. The arachnophobia kind of feel to it. I love that. That's awesome. I'm very excited for you for that. Cool. But like I said, thank you so much for your time, Ryan, today. This has been great talking to you, especially about the movie and your early career and what's next for you. So again, if you want to check out Fried Berry, it is on Shudder for the time being. We're going to be looking forward to everything that Ryan has coming down the pike. And thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah.